Happy Wednesday, everybody. It is July the 22nd, and these are some of the headlines on BizarreBus.com. The nation is on the verge of lockdown 2.0. Autopsies reveal unique pattern of cell death in hearts of patients who have died of COVID. USA orders China to shut down Houston consulate in unprecedented escalation. They were busted last night burning documents. Third Fort Hood soldier found dead near Texas Army base within the past month. What the hell is going on over there? And somebody said on some comments that I wouldn't believe how many people die there all the time. Scientists accidentally create impossible hybrid fish. These headlines and many more can be seen at BizarreBus.com. The nation is on the verge of lockdown 2.0. I don't know how economically we can even handle that. People aren't even getting rent relief or mortgage relief. There's going to be millions of homeless people soon. After 2 months of what looked like a nascent recovery, the U.S. economy is faltering again. Restaurant reservations, one of the most commonly tracked indicators of local business activity, are stagnating. Americans are also a bit less mobile in July than in June. It's not hard to see what's happening with COVID-19 infections surging in the Sun Belt states and a few other states experiencing second waves. Americans are being rationally prudent and staying home. The fear this time isn't as great as in March, but much less was known about the disease, but still it's enough to tank the recovery, and it is tanking. The key to restarting the recovery, therefore, is to suppress the virus. For cities and states where the epidemic has subsided, the best tools for preventing new outbreaks are universal mask usage, plentiful testing, prompt contact tracing, and isolation of the infected. But President Trump apparently subscribing to the theory that ignoring the virus will make it go away is attempting to block funding for testing and tracing. And for states such as Texas, Florida, and Arizona that have been overwhelmed with new infections, this approach, although still useful, won't be enough. I will say that the president started doing a little more in the last few days about it. Apparently, he's worried about the economic recovery. I think it just got too much too soon. But without people out and about spending money, we cannot recover. New lockdowns of some sort are going to be necessary. Some cities are already considering a return to stringent stay-at-home orders of the type used in the spring. Those lockdowns probably didn't hurt the economy any more than the virus itself. That's bullshit. But this time, things might be different because fear of the virus is less intense than in March. Blanket lockdowns that were superfluous last time might curtail the economy now. In addition, psychological stress from prolonged isolation might be fueling social unrest. I'm sure that has something to do with it. Not everything, but definitely something. Fortunately, we understand much more about the virus than we did 4 months ago, and what we have learned can help us design new lockdown policies that are much less restrictive and just as effective as the old ones. Outside activities seem to be much less dangerous than inside ones. And brief contact is considerably less risky than prolonged contact. The most dangerous activities are places where people are talking loudly in crowded indoor settings for a long time, like bars, parties, concerts, indoor sporting events. None of those have happened, except bars. I don't know what this dude's talking about. Indoor religious services and so on. Offices, gyms, hair salons, and indoor restaurants are somewhat dangerous. Hair salons are not dangerous, dude. I went in there, they're only allowing like 2 people at a time in, and the hairdressers and the people are wearing masks. It's a total, they're cleaning stuff cleaning stuff so hard. I mean, literally, you can't put a pen down without somebody wiping it off where I go. So that's BS. New lockdowns, therefore, should focus on banning only the highest risk activities. Bars, clubs, and other drinking establishments should be closed through the end of the year. This will hit local businesses hard, so Congress should create a bailout fund specifically for bars and similar establishments. Similarly, indoor sporting, music, and thereafter should be halted for the duration of the epidemic, and companies that rely on these should be bailed out accordingly. Oh, you mean instead of giving it to multi-billion-dollar corporations that didn't need the bailout money to begin with? I want to know who was overseeing that money. A name would be nice, not just like a department. Somebody was overseeing that money and giving it to people that they thought they could get ahead with, I think. Indoor social gatherings over a certain size should also be banned in hard-hit areas. This will require strict enforcement because people are apt to defy the law and throw parties. Airbnb parties all day in my city. Religious services and college classes should be held remotely. Moderately dangerous environments, offices, hair salons, and so on should be required to use strict protections against the disease. Physical distancing, universal mask wearing, ventilation, and physical barriers should be mandatory. State and Congress will need to provide funds to help pay for these needed modifications. They should also be required to pay for people's mortgages and rent because they shut it down. I'm not saying it wasn't the right thing. I'm just saying people have to live. You've created an entire homeless situation because of the shutdowns. But I was telling people this shit in January. So, but most people live paycheck to paycheck, dude. If you were able to save and get through this, God bless you. Most people can't do that. I happen to still be working at home, so that's how I've been able to survive. K through 12 schools are the hardest case. Keeping kids in the house forever exerts a significant toll on parents while hurting learning outcomes. But kids, especially older ones, can pick up the virus at school and spread it to their family members, and teachers are afraid to return to the classroom. Rightfully so. The best solution may be a compromise: open schools with strict social distancing measures, physical barriers and masks, and using remote learning when those other measures aren't possible. But equally important to what states and cities close is what they leave open. Outdoor activities seem to be very low risk, especially with masks on. Parks, beaches, and other open areas can help people preserve their mental and physical health for very little virus risk. That's not true. The freaking beaches were so packed in Florida over spring break that people brought it home with them. Retail, meanwhile, can be safe if everyone wears masks and keeps a reasonable distance within the store. I do agree with that. So the new rounds of lockdowns can afford to be smarter than the first. Nightlife, indoor events, and house parties can't be allowed, but most other activities are possible with adequate precautions that will allow Americans to return to a semblance of normal life, even in areas with high infection rates. And with vaccines and antibody treatments showing promise in trials, even these restrictions may only have to last a few months. False. That's false. This shit's gonna last for another fucking year, I'm sure of it. This sort of lockdown light probably has the highest economic return of any policy that governments can do right now. They will hurt the economy only minimally, and they will hasten the day when the epidemic is no longer scaring people into staying home. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. We shall see for sure. In any event, I'm going to link this at bizarrebus.com and you can read it for yourself. Doctors say damage seen in decreased coronavirus patients not consistent with typical heart muscle inflammation patterns. It's become quite evident the past few months that COVID-19 can have an adverse effect on the heart. Still, scientists and doctors are struggling to fully understand the relationship between the pestilence and heart health. Now, a series of autopsies performed by Louisiana State University pathologists yield some unusual observations. The team at LSU says that the damage done to the hearts of COVID-19 patients is not consistent with typical heart muscle inflammation patterns seen with heart muscle inflammation. Instead, they observed patterns of cell death that are quite unique and spread across scattered individual heart muscle cells. We identified key gross and microscopic changes that challenge the notion that typical heart inflammation is present in severe COVID cases. While the mechanism of cardiac injury in COVID is unknown, we propose those We propose several theories that bear further investigation that will lead to greater understanding and potential treatment and interventions. Additionally, the pathologists note that COVID was not present in any heart muscle cells. This is especially odd because the first coronavirus patient the first SARS coronavirus from 2003 was found within the heart muscle cells of SARS patients. COVID-19 patients also showed no sign of blood vessel blockages in their coronary arteries. I'll get it out. A total of 22 autopsies are included in this study. All of those patients had passed away due to COVID while being treated at the University Medical Center in New Orleans. Most of the patients are African American, with 10 being male and 12 being female. Their ages range from 44 to 79. Most had pre-existing high blood pressure, half had type 2 diabetes, and 41% were obese. So what was found? Diffuse alveolar damage, or DAD, or damage to the small lung air spaces that facilitate the exchange of gas, was observed among the autopsy patient. Also, both blood clots and bleeding were seen in the blood vessels and capillaries of the lungs. All of these factors were determined to be major contributors to the patient's deaths. These findings, along with severely enlarged right ventricles, may indicate extreme stress on the heart, secondary to acute pulmonary disease. Pathologists also point to viral infections among cells in the lining of the smaller blood vessels of patients. While these infections were relatively low levels, the team at LSU theorized it may have been enough to induce individual cell death. The overreaction of the immune system to the infection may also contribute to these observations. Dude. Given that inflammatory cells can pass through the heart without being present in the tissue proper, a role for cytokine-induced damage cannot be ruled out. That's pretty interesting. So anyway, you can read it. I'm going to link it. There's like a video on here too. I'm going to link it at bizarreabyss.com. So last night I'm scrolling on Facebook and there was a DEFCON warning from like this page that I follow talking about Chinese consulate in Houston. The police pulled up on them because they were burning documents, I believe, either outside. I don't know the actual what they were doing, but it was seen like from a distance and smoke was coming up, so somebody checked it out and they were burning documents. Dude, what are you trying to hide, right? That was last night. So today, U.S. gives China 72 hours to shut Houston consulate. Trump says other closures are possible. The United States gave China 72 hours to close its consulate in Houston amid accusations of spying, marking a dramatic deterioration in relations between the world's two biggest economies. There is a video on here. The U.S. State Department said on Wednesday the Chinese mission in Houston was being closed to protect American intellectual property and Americans' private information. How long has the consulate been there is my first question, and why wasn't it shut sooner considering the situation we've been in? Dude. President Trump said in answer to a question at a news briefing, it is always possible that other missions could be closed too. We thought there was a fire in the one that we did close. I guess they were burning documents or burning papers, and I wonder what that's all about. We wonder as well. Overnight in Houston, firefighters went to the consulate after smoke was seen. Two U.S. government officials said they had information that documents were being burned there. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin said the consulate was operating normally. No, dude! That is not normal operation. Usually shred documents. But I'm wondering why you didn't use the shredder, because you can piece that back together, right? Say I'm right. Oh man, the ministry said Washington had abruptly issued the demand to close the consulate on Tuesday and called it an unprecedented escalation. The Chinese embassy in Washington had received bomb and death threats because of smears and hatred fanned by the U.S. government. A Chinese spokesman said in a tweet, "The U.S. should revoke its erroneous decision. China will surely react with firm countermeasures." What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Communist Party rulers in Beijing were considering shutting the U.S. consulate in central city of Wuhan. Ooh, I'm scared. In retaliation, a source with knowledge of the matter said, U.S.-based China experts said Beijing could also opt to target more important consulates in Hong Kong, Shanghai, or Guangzhou, something that could hurt American business. Richard Grenell, who served until recently as acting director of U.S. National Intelligence, suggested that the United States could close the Chinese consulate in tech-heavy San Francisco. It's a close call. I would have done both, Houston and San Fran, but it also makes sense to start with one, he told Reuters. The Houston move comes in the run-up to the November presidential election in which Trump and his rival Joe have both tried to look tough towards China. Speaking on a visit to Denmark, U.S. Secretary Mike Pompeo repeated accusations about Chinese theft of U.S. and European intellectual property, which he said were costing hundreds of thousands of jobs. While offering no specifics about the Houston consulate, Pompeo referred to a U.S. Justice Department indictment on Tuesday of 2 Chinese nationals over what it called a decade-long cyber espionage campaign that targeted defense contractors, COVID-19 researchers, and hundreds of other victims worldwide. Dude, they had stuff. They was burning stuff. Pompeo also referred to recent speeches by the head of the FBI and others that highlighted Chinese espionage activities. Trump said, "It's enough. We're not allowing this to continue to happen," he told reporters. Senator Marco Rubio, acting chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, described the Houston consulate on Twitter as the central node of the Communist Party's vast network of spies and influence operations in the United States. Why weren't they in there taking paperwork then? Are they not allowed to storm that place? Y'all are lucky I ain't in charge. That's all I gotta say. The New York Times quoted the top U.S. diplomat for East Asia, David Stilwell, as saying that the Houston consulate had been at the epicenter of the Chinese Army efforts to advance its warfare advantages by sending students to U.S. universities. Well, we took practical steps to prevent them from doing that, he said. These included intellectual property theft and commercial espionage, as well as unequal treatment of U.S. diplomats, exporters, investors, and media in China, and abuse by China's security services of the welcoming U.S. posture towards Chinese students and researchers. A Chinese diplomat speaking to Reuters on condition of anonymity denied the spying allegations and said the Houston mission acted like other Chinese consulates in the United States, issuing visas and promoting visits and businesses. Bullshit. U.S.-China ties have worsened sharply this year over issues ranging from the virus to telecoms gear maker Huawei, to China's territorial claims in the South China Sea and clampdowns in Hong Kong. Well, you know they were up to something. I mean, why else would you be burning documents in the city, dude? Nobody burns shit in the city. You're not allowed. It's not like you're out on a farm somewhere. That's why they got busted. Anyway, I'm going to link it. There is more, and you can read it yourself at bizarrebus.com. Let's take a quick break, and we wanted to show you the support page at bizarrebus.com, where you can just go to bizarrebus.com and click on support us. You can choose t-shirts. Anything you've seen in the videos, we try to list. There's 5 different ways that you can try to support us. You can use Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, Bitcoin. You can just send a straight Zelle request if you want, Venmo. You can choose to purchase a mask, any of the t-shirts. We got Alien Lives Matter, Earth Life Matters, Black Hole Eats Matters, Black Holes Eat Matter. We've got a lot of different things you can do to support us. We would certainly appreciate it if you feel that we deserve that. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, there's been a 3rd Fort Hood soldier found dead near Texas Army base within the past month. What the hell is going on in Fort Hood? Officials have not said whether the death is considered suspicious. Another soldier's been found near Fort Hood, the 3rd body of a soldier to be discovered near the U.S. Army base in Texas within the past month. Private Mihor Morta, 26, was found unresponsive July 17th in the vicinity of Stillhouse Hollow Lake. Fort Hood officials said on Tuesday, Stillhouse Hollow Lake is a reservoir located in Bell County and managed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Fort Worth District. Officials have not said whether the death is considered suspicious. The Bell County Sheriff's Department is investigating the incident. So a 26-year-old doesn't just die of natural causes. I just wanted to say that. The Black Knight family is truly heartbroken by the tragic loss of Private Mihor Morta, said Lieutenant Colonel Neil Armstrong, commander of the 1st Brigade, 5th Cavalry Regiment. I would like to send my heartfelt condolences to his family, friends, and loved ones. Morta of Pensacola, Florida, entered the Army September 19th as a Bradley fighting vehicle mechanic. Since May 2020, he had been assigned to 1st Battalion, 5th Cavalry Regiment, 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team, 1st Cavalry Division, according to a statement released by Fort Hood Press Center. His awards and decorations include Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, National Defense Service Medal, and the Army Service Ribbon. On June 19th, officials discovered skeletal remains in a field in Killeen, Texas, just over 10 miles from Stillhouse Hollow Lake, which were identified 2 days later as the remains of the 24-year-old Fort Hood soldier. I thought he was 26. Oh, wait. 2 days later is the remains of 24-year-old Fort Hood soldier Gregory Weldell Morales. U.S. Army officials say they suspect foul play in that death, who had been missing since August. Even though Weldell Morales was scheduled to be discharged from the Army within days of his disappearance, his unit had declared him AWOL and then a deserter. Dude, there is something going on over there. Morales was reinstated to active duty after the Killeen Police Department, which serves the town adjacent to Fort Hood, found new evidence suggesting he died before he was dropped from rolls. That meant he could be buried with military honors in his home state of Oklahoma. $25,000 reward is being offered for information in his case. On June 30th, Army officials found more remains, which were later identified as 20-year-old Fort Hood soldier Vanessa Gwillan, the chick that got beheaded that I was telling you about the other day. I probably hacked her name. I'm sorry. They found her near the Leon River in Bell County. Now that chick was murdered by a girlfriend of an Army person that was in her, like she knew this dude or something. And then he blew his head off. So something's up, dude. There's no indication that the deaths of Morales, Gillen, and Gillen are connected, but both their families argue Fort Hood officials did not investigate the disappearances with enough empathy or urgency. Members of Congress joined Advocates for Women Tuesday to continue the call for changes in the way the military handles sexual abuse and harassment following the death of Gillen, whom investigators believe was bludgeoned to death and dismembered by a fellow soldier stationed at the same base. Yeah, but his girlfriend helped. That's what they're not putting in here, dude. Now, see, that's what I'm talking about. If I hadn't read and knew about that case, you would never know that that asshole that did that to her had help from an accomplice, like his girlfriend or something. And then he blew his head off. They like to twist that shit, dude. You got to keep an eye on them. Anyway, I'm going to link it at bizarreabyss.com. Scientists accidentally create an impossible hybrid fish. Looks sort of like a shark hammerhead, but it's scaly. It's got like not a shark fin on the back, but multiple of them. It shouldn't have been possible, but it was the birth of a long-nosed, spiky-finned hybrid of Russian sturgeons and American paddlefish. Nice, dude. Hungarian scientists announced in May that the journal genes that they had accidentally created a hybrid of the two endangered species, which they have dubbed sturtlefish. There are about 100 of the hybrids in captivity now, but scientists have no plans to create more. They're going to create on their own, dude. And someone's going to let them out because, you know, someone's going to be curious what happens in nature with them. And then they're going to devour everything in sight and kill everything that is around them. Or something. This isn't good, y'all. Oh my God. We never want to play around with hybridization. You did, though. It was absolutely unintentional. No, it wasn't. A senior research fellow at the Research Institute of Fisheries and Aquaculture in Hungary told New York Times, Russian sturgeons are critically endangered and also economically important. They're the source of much of the world's caviar. These fish can grow more than 7 feet long, living on a diet of mollusks and crustaceans. American paddlefish feed off of zooplankton in the waters of the Mississippi River drainage basin, where waters from the Mississippi and its tributaries drain into. They too are large, growing up to 8.5 feet. Like the sturgeon, they have a slow rate of growth, and development puts them at risk of overfishing. They've also lost habitat to dams in the Mississippi drainage. According to the University of Michigan, the two species last shared a common ancestor 184 million years ago. Well, hello, Joe. Haven't seen you in 184 million years. Nevertheless, they were able to breed, much to the surprise of this dude and his colleagues. The researchers were trying to breed Russian sturgeon in captivity through a process called gynogenesis. Typical asexual reproduction. In gynogenesis, a sperm triggers an egg's development but fails to fuse with the egg's nucleus. That means its DNA is not part of the resulting offspring, which develops solely from maternal DNA. The researchers were using American paddlefish sperm for the process, but something unexpected happened. The sperm and egg fused, resulting in offspring with both sturgeon and paddlefish genes. Good job, dude. The resulting sturtlefish hatched by the hundreds, and about 100 now survive, according to the Times. They're just about a 50-50 mixtures of the sturgeon and paddlefish genes, and some are far more sturgeon-like. All are carnivores, like the sturgeon, and share the sturgeon's blunter nose compared with the paddlefish's pointy snout. Well, I don't know. What I saw in the picture could have been something else then. Maybe they didn't put a picture of it up because that had a pointy snout. Most hybrid species, such as the liger, a mixture of lion and tiger, and the mule, a mixture of horse and donkey, can't have offspring on their own, and the sturtlefish is probably no exception, but they don't know. Dude and his colleagues plan to care for the fish, but they won't create more since the hybrid could outcompete native sturgeon in the wild and worsen the sturgeon's chances of survival. That's what I just said. You can't put it in that river, dude. However, the fact that fish separated by 184 million years of evolution could crossbreed indicates they're not so different after all. These long-living fossil fish have extremely slow evolutionary rates, so what might seem like a long time to us isn't quite as long a time to them. Well, that's freaking interesting. So I'm sure that somebody's going to let a couple of these loose just to see what happens. Y'all know how it goes. That island of Dr. Moreau or whatever the hell, right? Exactly. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for all the excellent comments, man. I didn't realize how many of you would really appreciate the longer videos when I started them. It's easier on me because it's less uploading, you know, each individual 1-minute video. And also, I like to get more in depth in the stories. And it seems that you guys are appreciating that as well. Anyway, have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow.